My name is Hannah Mercer. I am 34. They said they missed me, but the way they said it sounded like a line they wanted to land, not a feeling they carried. I was sitting on my couch with my shoes still on when the doorbell chimed through my phone. The Ring camera app lit up with that small red circle. Their faces filled the screen before I even stood up. My mother leaned toward the camera like it was a person. She smiled the smile she uses in photos where her eyes stay sharp. She said they just wanted to see me and make sure I was okay. My father stood a half step behind her, nodding too quickly. Dignity can be a small thing. Sometimes it is just your own front door staying closed. I did not open it. I watched. There was a paper grocery bag at their feet. I could see the corner of a loaf of bread sticking out. It looked like a prop. That thought came to me before I could soften it. My mother said my name again, slower. My father added that families should not drift. His voice was warm in the way people use when someone else is listening. Then my mother glanced sideways. Her smile dropped for 1 second. She lowered her voice and said, not toward the camera, "Was that better?" My father answered under his breath, "Do it once more." I felt my throat tighten. I replayed the last 10 seconds with my thumb. The timestamp sat there in white numbers. Nothing dramatic. Just them on my mat, framed by the beige hallway wall and my welcome sign that Jordan bought me as a joke. They tried again. My mother straightened her shoulders and knocked softly this time. She said they missed me and brought a few things because they worry I do not eat well. She laughed a little at the end. It was a neat laugh, placed carefully. I did not move. My hand was resting on the edge of the kitchen counter, next to my keys and an unopened mail envelope from work. I noticed my fingers were pressing into the laminate. A part of me still wanted to believe the first version, the simple one where parents show up and mean it. That part of me has a long history. I muted the live view and let the recording continue. On the other side of the door, I could hear a faint shuffle through the wood. My father said my name in his normal voice, the one he uses when he is tired, not performing. He said they drove a long way and it would be nice if I did not make this hard. I stayed quiet. Silence can do work that arguing never does. After a minute, they stepped back. The camera caught them in profile. My mother fixed her hair using the dark screen of her phone. My father picked up the grocery bag and adjusted the bread so it showed more. They walked out of frame. The hallway light reflected on the floor tiles. Mrs. Patel's door across the hall stayed closed. Everything looked ordinary, like any other evening in this building where people carry takeout and mind their business. I told myself it was one visit. Just awkward. Just family being family. I set my phone down and finally took off my shoes. I lined them next to the door, toes pointing out, the way I always do when I want the morning to feel in order. The app pinged again. A saved clip notification. Motion detected. I opened it, expecting to see an empty hallway. Instead, I saw my parents still there, just out of knocking range, standing near the stairwell. They thought they were off camera. My father leaned closer to my mother and said something I could not fully hear yet. So I turned the volume up and pressed play. Then I heard his first clear word. His first clear word was, smile. It hit me like a small slap because it was so casual. Not cruel, not angry. Just managerial. He was standing near the stairwell, half turned away from my door. The hallway camera caught him in that flat overhead light that makes everyone look tired. My mother's shoulders lifted like she was taking direction. He said, smile. If she opens it, we go soft. If she doesn't, we make it look like she's the problem. My mother let out a short breath through her nose. She said, I hate this. My father answered, you hate losing. There's a difference. My stomach went cold. I replayed it once. Then again, slower, like my brain needed to check if I was being unfair. The timestamp sat there. Steady. The audio stayed the same. I grabbed my keys and my tote bag without thinking. My apartment felt suddenly too small, like the air had thickened. I stepped out into the hallway and locked the door behind me, careful and quiet. My parents were gone by then, but the grocery bag smell lingered faintly, like bread and that sharp plastic scent from supermarket handles. In the parking lot, I sat in my car with the windows up. I watched the clips again with my phone propped against the steering wheel. The screen brightness made my face look pale in the reflection. It would have been easier if the clip was worse. If my father had yelled, if my mother had cried, If there was something obvious I could point to and say, "See, that's why." Instead, it was planning, calm, strategic. I saved the clip. I renamed it with a plain label, Doorstep Take 2. Then I scrolled back to the earlier recording and listened closely to what I missed the first time. The "was that better?" The "do it once more," the little drop in my mother's voice between performances. I hated how fast my mind started organizing it, like I was at work building a case file for a policy violation. Except it was my own parents. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister. "Claire, Mom says you wouldn't even open the door. What is wrong with you?" I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Claire lives 2 suburbs away. She has a yard and a big kitchen and a calendar full of school events for her kids. She also has my parents' approval, which is a kind of currency in our family. I typed, "They showed up unannounced." Then I deleted it. I typed, "I'm fine." Then I deleted that too. I didn't answer. I put the phone face down in the cup holder like it could stop pulling at me. My mother's number lit up the screen 5 minutes later. I let it ring. It went silent. Then my father's number. Then my mother again. I drove to the coffee shop near my office, even though it was late, because the lights and the neutral noise felt safer than my living room. Inside, the place smelled like espresso and cinnamon syrup. A barista was wiping down a table with slow circles like she had all the time in the world. I ordered a tea I didn't want and sat in the corner where the wall was at my back. I opened the Ring app again and looked at the list of events. It showed motion earlier than the doorbell, a few seconds before they knocked. I tapped it. The clip started with my parents standing right in front of my door. My father adjusted my mother's scarf. My mother smoothed her blouse. Then my father said, "Okay, you say it like you're scared you lost her." My mother gave a small nod. Then, softer, she said, "We did lose her." My father didn't respond to that. He just said, "Not on camera." I swallowed so hard my throat hurt. I felt heat behind my eyes, but it didn't spill. I held the cup in both hands until my fingers stopped trembling. I could already hear the version of this my family would spread if I stayed silent. Hannah is cold. Hannah is unstable. Hannah is punishing us. And I could already see the other version. The one I held in my hand. Time-stamped. Saved. Unimpressed. My phone buzzed again. New motion alert. I looked at the screen. It wasn't my door this time. It was the lobby camera. It was the lobby camera. I watched the clip with my tea cooling in front of me, and my skin went tight across my shoulders like I was bracing for a door to open. The lobby view was wider, lower quality. The glass entry doors, the mailboxes, the little table with flyers no one reads. My parents were standing near the intercom panel like they belonged there. My mother kept looking toward the elevator. My father stood with his hands in his pockets, relaxed in a way that made me feel almost insulted. A woman I didn't recognize walked in with a grocery tote. She paused when she saw them. My mother turned on the soft face immediately. She said, "Hi. Sorry. We're just trying to reach our daughter. We miss her." The woman made a sound like she wasn't sure if she should respond. She nodded once and moved toward the mailboxes. My mother followed her with her eyes, then looked up at the ceiling corner where the lobby camera sits. My father leaned in and said, "Too low for the woman to hear, but not too low for the mic. Good. Keep it simple." My mother asked, "Do you think she'll see us down here?" My father said, "She'll see whatever we want her to see." That line sat in my stomach and didn't move. I saved the lobby clip too. I named it without emotion. Lobby. I sat there, staring at the list of recordings like they were receipts from a life I kept returning to, even after I swore I wouldn't. My phone buzzed again. Claire. "Claire, Mom is crying. She said you watched them through the camera like they were strangers." I stared at the message until I noticed my thumb had gone numb from holding the phone too tightly. Another message popped up, right after. "Claire, you always do this. You get mad, then you punish everyone." I could almost hear Claire's voice saying it, the same tone she used when we were kids and I wouldn't come downstairs for family game night. Like my boundaries were a mood she could outwait. I opened our family group chat, the one I hadn't typed in for months. The screen was full of little blue and gray bubbles stacked on top of each other like a wall. My mother had already posted, "Mom, we went to Hannah's place because we miss her. We just wanted to hug her. She wouldn't even open the door." My father added a message right after. Dad, we stood out there like fools. This isn't normal. Something is going on. Then Claire. Claire, I told you she's been acting weird since the job change. There were a few heart emojis from an aunt, a praying from someone I barely talk to. One cousin wrote, she's always been dramatic. My face went hot. Not because it was true, because it was familiar. I took screenshots, not because I wanted to argue with them, but because I knew how quickly messages disappear when someone decides they went too far. My tea tasted like paper by the time I swallowed again. I typed one sentence in the group chat. I'm not discussing this here. I hovered over send. Then I didn't send it. I could hear my father's voice from the clip. She'll see whatever we want her to see. This was the part where I usually tried to correct the story. Calmly, carefully. Like if I said the right words, they would stop building a version of me that served them. It never worked. It just gave them more material. I texted Jordan instead. Hannah, are you up? Jordan replied almost immediately. Always. What happened? I sent one clip, just the stairwell audio, the smile part, the not on camera part. Jordan didn't respond right away. That pause felt like the moment before a doctor speaks, the moment when the air gets too quiet. Then she wrote, Jordan, that is not love. That is a production. My throat tightened, the same way it had in the car. I stared at her message until the letters blurred, then steadied again. I drove home with the radio off. My apartment building looked normal from the outside. A few windows lit. A couple of cars pulling in and out. I parked and sat for a full minute before I got out, like my body needed to agree. In the lobby, I kept my eyes forward. I didn't look up at the camera. I didn't look at the mailboxes. I walked straight to the elevator and pressed the button with my knuckle. Upstairs, the hallway smelled faintly like someone's laundry detergent. My door looked the same as it always does. The welcome sign was still crooked. The floor mat was slightly folded on one corner. Inside, I set my keys on the counter and stood there listening. No knocking, no voices. Just the refrigerator hum and the soft click of my wall clock. I told myself, this is the end of it. Then I woke up the next morning, walked into my office, and my phone buzzed in my pocket. Ring alert. Motion detected. At my door. Motion detected at my door. It happened while I was standing at the printer at work, waiting for a stack of onboarding packets to finish. The machine whirred and clicked and spit out paper like it didn't care what kind of morning it was. My phone vibrated in my pocket. That same small buzz, like a tap on the shoulder. I stepped into the hallway outside the HR suite and opened the app. The camera view loaded in a slow blur, then snapped into focus. My parents weren't alone. My mother was standing in the middle of the corridor with her hands clasped like she was about to say grace. My father was slightly off to the side, angled toward the end of the hall. And 2 doors down, Mrs. Patel's door was open a crack. My mother looked right into the camera and spoke like she was speaking to an audience, not a daughter. Hannah, she said, drawing out my name. We are worried. Please. We miss you. My father nodded, slow and practiced. My mother's eyes flicked to Mrs. Patel's door. Then she softened her voice even more. We brought groceries, she said. We just want to make sure you're okay. She held up the grocery bag like a peace offering. I could see a carton of eggs and a bunch of bananas. The label on the bag was folded outward so the store name faced the camera. My jaw clenched so hard it ached. I watched them wait. My mother tilted her head and pressed her palm flat to the door like she was listening for my heartbeat through it. Then, in the background, Mrs. Patel stepped into the hallway with a small trash bag in her hand. She paused when she saw them. My mother turned instantly. Oh, she said brightly, like she was delighted by the coincidence. Hi, I'm Hannah's mom. We're just trying to see her. Mrs. Patel's face didn't change much. She's older, always neatly dressed, always polite. She looked at my mother, then at my father, then at my door. She said, She works. She's not home. My mother smiled, the way you smile at someone you want on your side. We know, she said. We just wanted to leave her a few things. She won't answer us. We're so scared she's shutting us out. She made her voice tremble at the end. It was controlled tremble, like she'd practiced that too. My father stepped closer to my mother and murmured, Not low enough. Make it sound worse, he said. My mother didn't miss a beat. She let her shoulders droop. She looked down at the grocery bag and said, "We don't know what we did." Mrs. Patel's eyes narrowed slightly. It was small, but I noticed it because she's usually careful not to show anything. She said, "You should leave. This is an apartment building." My mother blinked like she'd been slapped. My father's face shifted for half a second. The warm mask slipped. He leaned toward Mrs. Patel and said, "We're family. We're not doing anything wrong." His voice was firmer now. Not loud, just edged. Mrs. Patel held her trash bag tighter. She didn't step back, but her stance changed. She looked down the hall as if checking for someone else. My mother saw that, and her tone snapped back to sweet. "Of course," she said quickly. "We don't want to bother anyone. We're just heartbroken." The word landed too perfectly. I recorded my screen while the ring clip played, my thumb shaking slightly, because I didn't trust that I'd remember it clearly later. The timestamp was there. The faces were there. The way my father coached her was there. Then my phone buzzed with a second notification. Email. Building manager. Subject line, tenant concern. I opened it with my heart already sinking. It was short. Just a few sentences. He said there had been a report of visitors lingering in the hallway. He asked if I was expecting anyone. He wrote that he wanted to keep things calm for other residents. I sat down on the bench outside the HR suite, the plastic seat cold through my pants. In the camera view, my mother turned back to my door one last time and said my name again, louder, like she wanted it to echo. Then my father said something to her that the mic caught clearly. "Okay, that was good. Let's go before someone calls management." And that's when I realized they already knew someone would. They already knew someone would. That part made me feel stupid in a very specific way. Like I had been playing checkers on a board they'd already set up for a photo. At lunch, I didn't eat. I drove to the same coffee shop as the night before and sat in the back corner with my laptop closed and my phone out. My hands smelled faintly like printer toner from those packets at work. Jordan slid into the seat across from me with her hair still damp from a shower and a hoodie pulled tight around her shoulders. She didn't ask for small talk. She just looked at my face and said, "Show me." I opened the Ring app and played the hallway clip, the sweet voice. The glance toward Mrs. Patel's door. The grocery bag held up like a symbol. The line from my father. "Make it sound worse." Jordan's eyes didn't leave the screen. When it ended, she exhaled slowly and looked at me like she was trying not to say something too sharp too fast. "They're using the building," she said. "They're trying to create witnesses." I nodded once. My throat felt tight and dry. I pulled up the stairwell clip next. The one where my father said smile. The one where my mother said we did lose her, and my father shut it down with not on camera. Jordan watched that one twice. The second time, she leaned forward and turned the volume up. When it ended, she set my phone face down between us like it was evidence that needed a table. "Okay," she said, "so you're not imagining this." I let out a sound that wasn't a laugh. I opened my notes app and showed her the labels I'd started making. Doorstep take 1, doorstep take 2, stairwell, lobby, hallway with neighbor. It looked ridiculous. It also looked clean. "You're doing the right thing," Jordan said. "You're keeping it factual." I stared at the coffee stain ring on the table and felt my shoulders loosen half an inch. Then my phone buzzed. Voicemail. From my mother. I didn't play it yet. I just looked at the preview text the phone tried to generate, words with missing pieces. "We are worried. Your father is devastated. Please call." Jordan raised her eyebrows. "Play it." I pressed the speaker icon and held the phone flat on the table. My mother's voice filled the small space between us. Soft. Careful. Like she was standing in a church. "Hannah," she said, "I don't know why you're doing this to us. Your father hasn't slept. We drove all the way over there because we miss you. We brought groceries because we love you. We would do anything for you." There was a pause, and I could hear a faint sound behind her, like a car door closing. Then her voice changed. Just slightly. The softness stayed, but the words sharpened. "And I told Claire we offered to help you with rent if you're struggling. So if that's what this is, you don't have to be ashamed. You just have to talk to us." Jordan's mouth fell open a little. I sat perfectly still. My fingers had curled under the edge of the table without me noticing. It was a trap with a bow on it. Help with rent. A loving offer. Also a story planted in my sister's head. a narrative that made me look unstable or broke or both, depending on who was listening. And if I denied it, I'd sound defensive. If I accepted it, I'd be attached again. Jordan leaned closer. "Did you ask them for rent help?" "No," I said. My voice came out flat. "I've never asked." Jordan nodded slowly, like she believed me without needing a performance. "Then that's your money share moment right there," she said. "They're buying the storyline." I swallowed. My eyes burned, but it didn't spill. I kept hearing my father's line from the hallway clip. "Let's go before someone calls management." They weren't just trying to reach me. They were trying to control what everyone thought about why they couldn't. I opened my email and pulled up the building manager's message again. "Tenant concerne." The words looked harmless, routine. But now they felt like the first step into something that could mess with my housing if my parents kept turning my hallway into a stage. Jordan tapped the table lightly with one finger. "You need to respond to management," she said. "Not with emotion, with facts." I nodded. Once. I started drafting a short reply on my phone, one sentence at a time. No adjectives, no accusations, just what happened and what I needed. Then, my phone vibrated again. New ring alert, doorbell, and this time, the camera view showed my father holding a sheet of paper up to my door like he wanted it recorded. He was holding a sheet of paper up to my door like he wanted it recorded. The Ring app loaded, and I saw the hallway from that familiar angle, the top corner view that makes people look slightly smaller than they are. My father stood close to the camera, close enough that the paper filled most of the frame. I couldn't read it. The camera resolution wasn't sharp enough, and he kept shifting it like he was trying to catch the right glare. My mother stood behind him with her hands clasped. She looked up toward the ceiling corner where Mrs. Patel's door was, then back at my door. My father knocked once and said, "Hannah, we're leaving this here." His voice was calm. That calm made my skin crawl. He taped the paper to my door with blue painter's tape, the kind you use when you don't want to leave residue, the kind that says, "We are being respectful. We are thoughtful." He stepped back so the camera could see it. Then he turned his head slightly, like he was listening for any movement inside. My mother said, "Please don't make us do this." My father murmured, "Just stay on script." On script. Jordan was still sitting across from me in the coffee shop. Her eyes widened. "They're leaving a note," she said. "For the record." I didn't answer. My mouth felt dry. I watched the live feed like I was watching a stranger's problem. My father adjusted the paper again, smoothing it with his palm. Then he pointed at it with one finger and said, louder, "We love you. We're worried. Call us." He paused, waiting. Then, quieter, he said to my mother, "If she doesn't call after this, we tell Tom she's refusing contact." My stomach dropped. Tom, the building manager. I saved the clip with my thumb shaking. I labeled it "Note on Door." Jordan leaned forward and lowered her voice. "You need to answer management right now," she said. "Before they do." I nodded, once, and opened my email draft. I kept it short. "Hi, Tom. Those visitors are my parents. They have been arriving unannounced and lingering in the hallway. I am not expecting them, and I do not want them waiting outside my unit. If they return, please ask them to leave." I stared at the words. My finger hovered over send. It felt like betrayal, even though it wasn't. It felt like I was calling security on my own childhood. Jordan didn't rush me. She just watched my face like she knew this was the moment where the old programming fights the present reality. I hit send. The whoosh sound was small, ordinary. It felt huge. My phone buzzed again, and for 1 second I thought it would be another ring alert. Instead, it was a text from Claire. "Claire, Mom said you're broke and too embarrassed to admit it." I stared at the message until my vision sharpened into something colder. That rent line was already doing what it was meant to do. It was already moving through my family like a rumor with clean edges. Jordan exhaled through her nose. "They're triangulating," she said. Then she stopped herself and shook her head. "Sorry, I don't mean jargon. They're using Claire to pressure you." I didn't respond. I opened the ring clip again and focused on the part where my father said Tom's name. It was so specific. So intentional. I thought about the paper taped to my door, the painter's tape, the performance of being reasonable, the little script that made me look abnormal if I didn't comply. My phone rang. My mother again. I let it ring out. A new voicemail arrived immediately after. I didn't play it. I didn't need the soft voice again. I could already predict the words. "We are worried. This isn't you. Call us." Jordan reached across the table and touched my hand lightly, just once, then pulled back, like she didn't want to push me into anything. "What do you want?" she asked. "Not what they want. What do you want?" I swallowed. My throat hurt. I stared at the foam residue on the inside of my cup. "I want them to stop coming to my door," I said. Jordan nodded. "Then we make that the only goal." My phone buzzed. An email notification. From Tom. I opened it. He said he understood. He said he'd already received a complaint from another resident about visitors in the hallway. He said if they returned, he would speak to them directly. He added one more line. He asked if I had any documentation of the repeated visits, in case the building needed to escalate. I felt my breath stop. Jordan looked at my face. "What?" I turned my phone toward her, and for the first time since this started, the path forward didn't feel emotional. It felt procedural. I sat in my car that evening with my phone plugged into the charger, and the ring clips queued up like a playlist I never wanted. The sun was dropping behind the buildings, turning the parking lot light poles into thin silhouettes. Tom had asked for documentation. I had it. Too much of it. I didn't send everything. I didn't want to sound dramatic. I chose 3 clips. The stairwell audio where my father said, "Smile." The hallway clip where he said, "Make it sound worse." The note on door clip where he said, "We tell Tom she's refusing contact." I wrote a short reply. "Hi Tom, yes, these are time-stamped Ring camera clips from the last visits. Thank you for helping keep the hallway calm." I attached the files and sent them before I could talk myself out of it. Then I drove home and sat for a minute before I went inside, listening to the tick of my turn signal I'd forgotten to switch off. The sound was steady and dumb and grounding. When I stepped into the lobby, the air smelled like someone's takeout and floor cleaner. I pressed the elevator button and watched the numbers light up. On the ride up, my phone buzzed with a ring alert. Motion detected. My stomach dropped like it already knew what it would see. The doors opened and I walked into my hallway. Tom was there. He stood near my door with his hands at his sides, not aggressive, just present. He was a tall guy with a shaved head and a soft belly, the kind of man who wears a polo shirt every day and wants everyone to please just be normal. My parents stood a few feet away. My mother's face was bright, almost relieved, like this was what she wanted. An audience. An official. My father looked calm. He held his hands open in front of him like he was showing he had nothing to hide. "Hannah," my mother said as soon as she saw me. "Oh, thank God. We were so worried." Tom glanced at me, then back at them. "Ma'am," Tom said, "careful. She asked that you not wait outside her unit." My father chuckled softly, like Tom had made a small mistake. "We're not causing trouble," my father said. "We're her parents." My mother nodded hard. "We just want to talk." "She won't respond." "We've tried everything." I didn't answer. I felt my body trying to prepare a speech, like it always does when people misunderstand me. I stopped it. I took my phone out of my pocket and opened the Ring app. My mother's eyes flicked down. My father's eyes flicked down too, just a fraction, then back up. He watched my face closely, like he could still steer this. Tom looked uncomfortable. "Do you have something you want to show me?" he asked. I held the phone out toward him, not toward my parents. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain. I just pressed play on the short clip where my father said, "If she doesn't call after this, we tell Tom she's refusing contact." The hallway speaker on my phone wasn't loud, but in the quiet corridor, it was enough. My father's own voice came out of my phone. Calm. Clear. Time-stamped. Tom's eyebrows lifted. He glanced at my parents like he was recalibrating the situation in real time. My mother's face tightened. "That's out of context," she said quickly. "He didn't mean it like that." My father's jaw moved once, like he was chewing a word before it came out. "Hannah," he said, lower, "you're really going to do this." It wasn't a question. It was a warning dressed in disappointment. Tom cleared his throat. "Sir," he said, "I need you to leave the hallway." My mother's voice rose, still sweet but sharper now. "So she can just ignore us forever and you're going to help her." Tom kept his tone steady. "This is a residential building. She's asked for no contact here. You can reach her by mail or phone. You can't wait outside her door." My father's mask slipped. The warmth drained out. "You know what?" he said, and the words came out flat. "Fine. If that's how she wants to play it, we'll stop." Then he looked directly at me. "You're going to regret this," he said. The hallway went quiet in that way that makes every little sound too loud. Somewhere down the hall, a TV played faintly through a wall. I could hear the elevator cables hum. I didn't argue. I didn't ask what he meant. I nodded once, like I was acknowledging a schedule change. My mother took a step toward me. Tom shifted slightly, not blocking her fully, but enough that the message was there. My mother's eyes were bright, and for 1 second she looked like she might cry for real. Then she glanced toward the camera above my door and stopped herself. Not on camera. They walked away with Tom behind them, guiding them toward the elevator like he was escorting a problem out of a meeting room. I went inside my apartment and locked the door. The click of the lock was loud in the quiet. I sat at my kitchen counter with my laptop open and wrote one message, one written boundary. No emotion, no history, just the line. "Do not come to my home again. If you need to contact me, email only." I stared at it for a long time before I hit send, because I knew what would happen next. Not at my door, but in my inbox. Not at my door, but in my inbox. The next morning, my apartment felt strangely quiet, like it was holding its breath. The welcome sign was still crooked. The corner of the mat was still folded. The hallway outside stayed empty when I checked the Ring app before work. No motion alerts. No doorbell. Just the timestamps of an ordinary building waking up without my drama in it. At my desk, I tried to pretend I was normal. I answered an email about benefits enrollment. I approved a time card correction. I smiled at a coworker in the break room while the coffee machine burped and sputtered. Then my inbox refreshed. From my mother. Subject line, "Please." I didn't open it right away. I let it sit there, bold and unread, like a weight you can choose not to lift. A second email came in 10 minutes later. From my father. Subject line, "This is heartbreaking." I closed my laptop halfway like it could slow the moment down. At lunch, I ate in my car again, parked under the thin shade of a small tree that didn't do much. I opened my email and clicked my mother's message first. It was long, paragraphs stacked like a sermon. She wrote about family. She wrote about love. She wrote about how she carried me for 9 months. She wrote about how people ask about me and she doesn't know what to say. Halfway through, the language shifted. She wrote that my behavior was concerning. She wrote that she didn't recognize me. She wrote that she hoped my new friends weren't influencing me. She wrote that if I kept shutting them out, they might have to take steps because they were worried for my well-being. Take steps. The words sat there on the screen, neat and vague, like a threat designed to look like care. I didn't reply. I opened my father's email. It was shorter. He wrote that I was embarrassing them. He wrote that the building manager incident was humiliating. He wrote that my sister was upset and I was splitting the family. He ended with one line that felt like a hand on the back of my neck. "If you don't respond, we will have to explain why." Explain why? To who? To what? To whatever audience they needed. My phone buzzed with a text from Claire. "Claire, I'm not taking sides, but Mom is really hurt." Claire, "Also, just so you know, she told Aunt Linda, you're not doing well." I stared at the messages until my eyes went dry. There it was again. The storyline. The version of me they could manage. I opened the Ring app out of habit. The last saved clip sat there, unplayed. The note on door moment from yesterday had a longer tail than I'd watched. I'd saved it, labeled it, then stopped because I didn't want any more of them in my head. I tapped it. The clip started with my father finishing the tape on the paper. My mother stood behind him, smoothing her scarf. Then, after they thought the camera wouldn't catch them, they stepped toward the stairwell. My mother whispered, "Do you think she's going to show this to people?" My father answered, "Let her. They'll still believe us. They always do." My mother said, "What if she doesn't come back?" My father paused, just long enough to feel real. Then he said, "She will. She needs us." I sat there in my car with the screen glowing in my lap, and I finally understood what had been making me feel sick. It wasn't that they came to my door. It was that they had a script for my life that didn't include my consent. I didn't write back to either email. I forwarded both messages to a folder I created called Door. I took a screenshot of my father's line about explaining why. I saved it next to the clips, not because I planned to expose them, but because I was done letting reality evaporate. Then I did the smallest thing that still felt like a decision. I opened a new email addressed to both of them. One line: I received your messages. Do not come to my home again. Email only. I read it twice. I checked for extra words. I removed one sentence that explained too much. Then I hit send. The afternoon passed without any new ring alerts. When I got home, the hallway was empty. Mrs. Patel's door was closed. The elevator doors opened and shut without anyone trying to catch them. Inside my apartment, I set my keys on the counter, the same place as always. I stood for a moment and listened. No knocking, no voices, just the refrigerator hum. My phone buzzed once. Not a ring alert, a new email from my mother. I looked at the subject line and didn't open it. Not yet.